Thank you very much, Zubin Bhai, and my dear Anand, Sikal, Mandar. All of you represent the young face of our profession, and I'm absolutely delighted to be with all of you. So what can I say to my wonderful friends who are listening in on this virtual interaction? It is always a pleasure and an honor to be speaking to my profession. And I can't think of any body of chartered accountants which has a larger amount of impact on all our thinking and on all our lives than BCA has. So I'd like to start with complimenting BCA for its thought leadership, for the fantastic work that they do. The magazine that you bring out is a collector's item every month after month. And the seminars, conferences, discussions, debates that you have are absolutely fulfilling for so many members of our profession. Everybody counts on BCA for enhancing their knowledge and for becoming a better professional. The subject of our discussion this evening is where do we see our profession 25 years from today? So let me give you five or six big ideas first to just set the tone for our discussion. We have entered the age of intelligence. For the first time, the human race has given birth to a technology that is accelerating at such a pace that has not been seen before. I can honestly share with you that every day I wake up and feel I'm obsolete and that I have to start my learning all over again because so much of the world has changed dramatically just in 24 hours. And this happens on a continuous basis without any fault. Take another amazing fact. There has never been a time on our planet when so many exponential technologies have begun to converge. And they are converging to give us an experience which is completely unique, has never been seen or experienced before. Take the case of instant commerce. Getting what you desire and what you order on your dining table within 6 to 15 minutes of the order being placed is like magic happening in front of you every day. And this is not the only magic. Those of us who have gone into a metaverse situation or have traveled by a driverless car know the experience of what converging technologies are able to deliver to us today. And I'm going to talk a lot about what technologies are going to emerge and how that is going to influence our profession. Third thing I have to say that why we feel that we are in the midst of polycrisis. There are wars going on, there's climate change happening, there is poverty, there is inequality, there is a heightened sense of risk. Geopolitical situations are unraveling. Elections are being won by unexpected parties all over the world. All of that is happening. But despite all of these, there has never been an era of abundance that we as a planet have actually experienced of the kind that we are experiencing today. For the first time, the human race is on the cusp of a singularity which will occur at the convergence of information technology biotechnology, and nanotechnology, which will raise productivity of everything that we engage with multiple X times. This has never happened before. For the first few million years of human existence, we were just that, existing. Then, over the last 3,500 years, after that period got over when we were just existing, we had a flat rate of growth, no growth. It is only 250 years ago that we took off into a absolute flight. I can't even call it Jacob. We've gone into a flight of growth powered by the Industrial Revolution and then powered by many other things like internet and collaborative work and technology and healthcare and technology and education and all of that. But what we have now birthed is the era of intelligence. For the first time, we will be able to experience intelligence which can accomplish tasks and process information and compute and deliver absolutely emergent thought that we had not imagined. It's like running multiple differential equations around every data set that you can lay your hand on. Just imagine that happening. Just imagine the nuances that you can capture and the productivity enhancements that you can deliver if you live through that kind of an era of absolute startling growth. Last big thing that is happening around us. We are for the first time experiencing that nothing is more important than ethics. Why do I say that? The biggest fear about AI is deep fakes, is the whole notion that will we be taken in by somebody who's pretending to be what they are not. And let me say that here we have the ability to make sure that we can create the guardrails and create the ethical and cultural moorings for AI that we use and deploy and bring into our organizations and bring into our lives at a scale and in a manner that has never happened before. But embedded in this notion is the idea and the thought which I would like to leave with you as a powerful thought to think about for many, many years to come. That there is what is called a personal social responsibility that we all have to embed deep into our DNA. And that is the responsibility to get to net zero. Ladies and gentlemen, my friends in the profession, the world cannot get to net zero by 2050 or 2070 or whatever other number has been put out unless every one of us is at net zero. And then every family and every enterprise and every city and every country and then the whole world can converge to net zero and finally breathe clean air and drink safe water. So that is the context for our conversation. Those 6 ideas are the context for our conversation today. So, what will accounting practice look like in 25 years? Well, let me craft for you a scenario of what accounting will be, because that's the basic stuff that we deal with. Without accounting, we simply wouldn't have a profession. Ours is the accounting profession. So the era of entity-based accounting will vanish in the next 5 to 7 years to be replaced by an ecosystem-driven accounting paradigm. And what will this mean? Think about the tax information network. My income is somebody else's expense. And if the system can reconcile this, and if it can capture the financial footprint that all of us are making, then you would have captured the entire impact of the economic transaction that we are engaging in with each other. Whether it is a service delivered or it is a good consumed, in all contexts, it is possible for us to have a system which will track two sides of the equation. And it is so simple. It is only two sides. There's only debit and credit. There's only left and right. So it stands to reason that this entire interaction can be captured into data sets, which has been done in the past few years by governments, by tax systems. There is no reason why that universal digital infrastructure does not get available to all of us who are engaging with each other in economic transactions and economic activities. The GSTN network is another example. The whole idea of traceability will become critically important. So now imagine that the entire flow of economic activity, which is represented by data sets, is captured instead of somebody in a back office figuring out what to put in a voucher or what to put in an input document or what to feed into a live digital access by through a device. It's just been captured and is being processed to a purpose. And then imagine that this flow is blockchain. So it becomes immutable. You can't change it. Once the economic activity has happened, the signaling which is natural in the ecosystem will capture it and then process it and convert it into the output for 6 capital of integrated report. Just think about the neat new accounting world that we can give birth to. And this is, the forces are building around this to happen. Many parts of the world, and India is one of the greatest nations on earth, which has approached tax determination as opposed to tax filing and tax assessment. There are whole countries in Latin America and in Europe which simply have tax determination. And just imagine what happens. The ecosystem calculates the impact of your economic transactions, determines based on the tax rate set by the legislature, sends you a debit note. And if you are on an automated tax payment system, then the money will simply move from your bank account to the tax department and you're done. No return filing, no assessment, no appeal, no interaction. Fully digital, fully reliable, 100% working efficiently. You can start dreaming about a 9-page income tax act and a 3-page GST law. Just imagine what a world that would be. It would leave us free to do many of the things I'm going to talk about subsequently. And we can imbue this whole system with global accounting standards and global standards of auditing. Now, let me spend 2 minutes on how auditing will have to transform. In the scenario that I have created, auditing will become a simulation activity, an activity which builds on deviant patterns from data which resides in a repository, which represents the good transactions, and the live data going into the repository, interacting with the repository, throwing out deviant patterns, and highlighting what is it that the auditor needs to go deep in. The simulation, contextual repository creation, pattern identification, dealing with the deviant pattern, and making sure that you go back to homeostasis. That is the way auditing will be done. Online, real time, continuous, simultaneous to the activity, not being done at the end of the year or at any different point. And then imagine that this trustworthy, reliable information and data becomes the basis on which you make all your decisions for investing, for taking a call on the future, for making sure that your strategies are in sync with the reliable data and information that is available to you in a constant stream, analyzed in the manner that you desire at that point of decision making. Because it's not the mechanics which are going to thwart you. It's going to be your analytical capability, which will pull from this fantastic data ocean, which brings it down to your reality and enables you to draw what you want for your sustenance and your decision making right there, right now. And that is going to become the environment in which our profession will deliver its output. So let's draw from what I've said 3 or 4 big ticket things that our profession can get engaged in. Take standard operating processes. In a world that we are now giving birth to, what would be the best way to draw up SOPs? You need a framework. Let's take COSO. You need an artificial intelligence tool. Take Gemini, take ChatGPT 4.0, take whatever you are familiar with. Take Llama, take Anthropic's large language model, whatever you are comfortable with. And process your textual process of doing things through the COSO framework and create your SOP. Fantastic outcome. Now, think about code. The entire way in which computers are taking or working is going to change dramatically. Earlier, we used to be in an era where we had to instruct line by line, process by process. Do this, then do that. If this happens, do this. If this does not happen, go here, put it away, box it in. Now, what you have to do is just write a text instruction. And even in a few months, just simply a voice command, which will be automatically converted into text. And you will be able to command the system to do whatever you like with multimodality, agentic processes, fully active and available to you at all times. That is the context and the era in which we will have to practice our profession. So that is uh, a few uh, very critical things. So I would like to leave with you the idea that the era of automation has given way to the era of digitization. So the whole focus has moved to data and the ability to create data sets which are relevant. From there, we have learned how to make context available, large context windows available to the artificial intelligence tools. From there, it acts multimodally, and based on instructions, it agentically processes the command that you have given it to deliver you the output that you want, like your tomato ketchup bottle on your dining table in 6 minutes. All this happens through this process that I have just mentioned to you. So that is the way our world is going to look 25 years from today. Now let's look at what changes will happen as a result of converging technologies and uh, full decarbonization, which we talked about in the beginning. So the context remains what I said in the what I created in the beginning. So very large context window. What will they do? It will enable what we used to be familiar with, chatbots, to grow into aware, learning, vibrant facility, which have human in the loop. So we will have RNA, which will enable us to make the learning happen in a manner that is continuous and is building on the last learned item, way beyond what we did to instruct the chess game winner. So what will happen is that the AI will learn from the in every interaction that you have with the AI makes it more intelligent because it captures it and it's working 24 hours a day and it's learning. Just think about it. You know, in the earlier world, if you corrected an error, then only you corrected it. But in a self-driving car, if what is the experience of one self-learning car in the whole world happens and a correction takes place, every self-driving car in the world can share it instantaneously. That is the beauty of AI. That is the beauty of connected systems. So AI is becoming aware, reinforcement learning with human in the loop, becoming agentic. It can do actions for you. So it will consume much less power. It will need much less compute. So we will conserve power as a result of our AIs becoming agentic automatically through the process that is being set up. Beyond that, it will become an innovator. So what will happen is there will be emergent intelligence coming out of the interaction or the differential equations being continuously run around the data sets. So the AI will become innovative. And finally, the AI will become the governor. And therefore, think about this. The world is going to begin to see the emergence of the first few unicorns, which are two-person companies. Two persons who can come together. And here I'm reminded by what Jensen Wang said at Columbia very recently. He said that NVIDIA chose to go into a field where there were no customers, so zero market, because we believe that if there are no customers, obviously there won't be any competitors. So what we build and deliver And what he built and delivered is accelerated computing. And my mind is blown by the speed at which NVIDIA has become a $3 trillion corporation. But more importantly, what it is able to deliver: parallel processing, GPUs, TPUs, moving into quantum, the entire pathway is set up. But if you ask me what is keeping me awake in terms of excitement today, it is neuromorphic computing. The most efficient computer is here, our brain, the human brain. There is no more power efficient, high compute capability than our human brain. And now they're trying to mimic it. So that the power requirement for running all these multiple data sets that are data uh, processors that are coming up, data centers that are coming up all over the world, will not have to consume that much power and will not generate that much heat, and all the rest of it, the water and the power consumption will all come down. So AI will be driven by outcomes that we command it to deliver. It'll figure out the code. You'll not have to write lines upon lines of code. Elon Musk gave a task to his people, and they reduced the length of the number of lines in their code by a factor of 100x, simply because they applied the learnings from artificial intelligence and rewrote their code. And this is another opportunity which the profession can take up. It's just a huge opportunity. So what will happen is you will need to have self-correcting systems which are imbued with planning that you, as the human in the loop, have generated. You'll do the simulation, you'll do the differential equations, you'll optimize, you'll curate. These are all the new adjectives that our profession will have to contend with. And that's how you will create value. Your value addition will happen through this whole supply chain of ideas. What will our role become? Our role will become of advice, of guidance, of governance, of optimization, of setting up these models in order that research and development will then become a part and parcel of our thinking and our operation. This is the pathway of AGI, which will ultimately result in ASR, superintelligence, artificial superintelligence, which will make the intelligence. So that is where the race is. Who will reach first to AGI and then transcend into artificial superintelligence? Because that will raise productivity 1000x, 1 millionx in various processes. And that pathway and that vision has already been seen. And therefore, there are dangers that we need to protect. So that will be another role that we in the profession have to play the protective role, the guardrailing role, to make sure that all of this doesn't run away and do things which we would regret. Smart cities, self-driven cars, actuated demand. So you won't have to express your demand. Your demand will get actuated because there is a continuous monitoring of every parameter which leads to your demand expression. Just imagine what is happening. And we have given up this right to the system to actually know where we go, what mode we go, how we stop, what do we use, what do we consume. All of this is known. And if this is put together, and it is being put together as we speak, all your predicted personalized recommendations are all coming from this AI machine. It's all coming from this smartness. So the ordering will be done automatically for you. And so the entire idea of social media, advertising, digital marketing, influencer marketing, and all of that will completely transform in a way that you will be able to fulfill the demand instantly using instant commerce. So the future of all e-commerce is instant commerce or quick commerce. Supply chains will coalesce. And ultimately, what we will have is replicators and 3D printed abilities to manufacture and produce, which will enable us to deliver whatever you need, wherever you need it, instantly. And that is the future that converging technologies will deliver. So, what will be our role as a profession? We have to track the data flow. We have to enable it to be managed. We will have to specify that as brain computer interface comes into play, we've already seen that Neuralink has been given the permission to go out and place these neural links into human brains and get the human brain connected to the computer. So you don't need to even speak or do anything. Your the thought waves of your brain will drive the computer. That is already experimented with, and that's moving to scale. And connect that to AR, VR, and MR, and you will see why Apple is doing what it is doing. Vision Pro, which is now being converted into paired sunglass type AR, VR equipment, which will ultimately create your ability to collaborate and work with people and make sure that you can share the commons, which will be the entire World Wide Web, the entire storehouse of knowledge that we have created, which we can then deploy and use because we will learn how to make it non intrusive into the privacy of people, but take away the essence from it and create the next wave of innovation around it. We will you'll see at least in 25 years the colonization of space in some way, shape, and form on distant moons, on distant planets, or on near planets. And we'll work out how to convert carbon into energy in order that the journey back from wherever we've gone can be facilitated. Um, we'll have a completely new organizational form, a DAO, which is a digital organizational arrangement, which will be driven by tokens, which will be democratically assigned to everybody. So you can vote on what you need to see happen. And that will drive the way forward. So how do you govern and manage the DAO will become the remit of our profession. Quantum will come in the next 3 to 5 years, quantum computing. So this whole idea that, you know, a, a uh, photon can be a wave or it can be a particle. That insight is being captured by the device which is doing the measurement. And that is going to fundamentally increase the speed with which you will be able to compute. And that is solving problems at a scale that I have not imagined. Like they finished 200 million protein folds, which earlier every protein fold was taking a team of PhDs months and years to do. They've done 200 million in one day. So the entire paradigm of new drug discovery, of creating new materials, of combining new ways and pathways for healthcare are all transforming. And what's our role going to be? To make sure that this is tracked, blockchain, the processes are in place, the processes work, and that the reporting as a result of what has happened works. That's going to be our role and our contribution to this phenomenal new outcomes that I'm sure will happen. Hyperloops will come into being and we'll have sustainable energy. The energy that can be derived from the sun is free. Our plants are doing photosynthesis for eons. And that power to generate that energy, capture it, and move it around and do a full electrification of every energy use is now within human concept. I wouldn't have been able to say it if I didn't believe it. And when you combine sun, wind, and battery is also transforming. Because of converging technologies, lithium is now, as we speak, being replaced by combination of materials, including sodium. Uh, there's a company in Pune which has successfully experimented and successfully delivered sodium-based battery. So if you get that, and if you get ammonia as a carrier, and if you move then into the hydrogen economy and then finally into fusion, you would have energy, sustainable energy, which is at an absolutely affordable price. And what happens through exponential technology is that the cost of everything tends to zero, and therefore it all becomes affordable. Now, you will ask, what happens to jobs? Inevitably, the jobs will have to transform, and we will have to find absolutely new ways of keeping people uh, engaged. And ultimately, I do see a universal basic income and universal basic service combination emerging. And that will be the largest public transfer of resources that will be managed by our profession because it will be done digitally. There's no other way to do it. There's no other way to administer a UBI and a UBS. I'm seeing it from my perch as chairman of Protean, where we have created perhaps India's finest digital infrastructure, public infrastructure. And what I'm seeing there is that we have created the pathways on which all of this innovation that I've been talking about can happen. So that era is not too far away. And what will be our role? We will be consultants. We will be creators of new business models, preservers of these business models, looking out for danger signs, stopping companies from getting disrupted, stopping business models from being disrupted. We will become stranded asset processors, people who will know what to do with stranded assets. Because as technology switches, the assets which were being deployed to create the value in the past will get stranded and you'll need to redeploy them. And that becomes a huge new area of activity for our profession. But it will take leadership. It will take us to understand hyper personalization. It'll take us to understand what it means to deliver a Khan Miko to every child in India. Just imagine that bereft of the poor quality and poor access to high quality education, if you were to be able to costlessly or at very affordable cost deliver a AI mentor which will understand every child and based on the child's learning ability will enable that child to be educated using AR, VR, MR, which we talked about, and making sure that there is a tailor-made learning companion for each child. That is a future that, for example, Rwanda is looking forward to. The Khan Academy, which works with OpenAI to actually deliver Khan Miko, has actually put this to work in millions of instances with children, to impacts which you have to simply admire when you learn about them and when you absorb them. So uh, that's the entire way in which we are going to leap and create new experiences for ourselves. Convert sick care to health care. Convert poor education to high quality education for every child. No child left behind. No health care remaining undelivered. Nobody deprived of energy. All of that abundance we can create. And as a professor, we can be in charge of making all of this happen. So, what are the 5 things that we need to do and transform about ourselves? We have to create trust. We have to build that trust. And we have to continually create it, enhance it. We have to track honestly. Everything that is done and accounted for has to become immutable. No greenwashing, no fraudulent activity. We need to be able to be auditors of the process, the governance on the process, because then it will be taken over by AI and the machines. And we'll have to sit in governance and make sure that it is governed appropriately. We have to change our attitude to collaborate. We have to believe that working together is the greatest job and the greatest way to deliver incremental value. And we'll have to share. Nothing is IP. Nothing that I know you could not, that I've told you today, you couldn't have figured out if you had done the same amount of reading and the same amount of absorbing of YouTube videos and other material that is available to all of us, ubiquitous. So, as Anand pointed out in his opening remark, what will be the new practice models that will evolve in this kind of world where all the work we'll be doing is so different from what we've been doing so far? So, the organization that will emerge will be global networks, domestic networks, all strung together by artificial intelligence, narrow artificial intelligence, strung together by competencies. We will be forced to specialize along domain and competency matrices. So we'll create cells of competence for groups of our professional community, which will deliver extraordinary productivity and extraordinary value, no matter what is the interface. So everything that we have been thinking about in terms of key result areas will become outcomes. And sorry, what we are thinking of as KRAs will now become OKRs, or outputs and key results. The tailwind for all of this is the fact that we are in an intelligence revolution driven paradigm. The next 25 years will see the largest rise in productivity, as I mentioned earlier. 2% unicorns. Look at what NVIDIA has done, and look at how transformational the growth of corporations across the world has been. And look at all the new areas that are emerging. And to me, the 3 areas that are emerging very rapidly are sustainability, and not just sustainability reporting, which we have been exposed to, but sustainability action. See, it's become so facile to act uh, in the space that you just need to imagine what you can put together. How can you go and get a collaboration which will enable you to take sustainability action? To give you my personal example, we uh, experimented. I was totally blown by this young man, Boyan, who inspired me to go to Rotterdam, spend a week there, and bring in the ocean cleanup into India as the Bharat Clean Rivers Foundation. We had some phenomenal interactions over the last few weeks with the municipal corporation and with people endowment to see how we can join hands, collaborate, share all that technology and all that learn to address the issues of Mumbai, our own city. Or we've created a full new pathway to actually produce ammonia and hydrogen from aggregates. And we are experimenting with how do you prepare for decarbonization in small chunks by actually making sure that that action is taken and happens. What will string all of this together? The next step to good corporate governance is going to be ethics. And that is something that we must spend an incredible amount of time from all the activities that we do. The entire guardrails will be the sanskars that we are able to imbue into our data sets, which will enable them not to get into deep faking, not to get into greenwashing, not to get into fraudulent or inappropriate transactions, but to stay the narrow path and deliver the correct information using the six category framework and making sure that it works. And we will uh, need to be continually in the path of research and development. That is one aspect that our country has lagged in over all these years. And now is the time for us to actually invest 6%, going up to 10% of our uh, earnings back into research and development. And that is what is going to enable us to capture all of these phenomenal outcomes that we talked about in a world that is going to be completely driven by artificial intelligence, by augmented intelligence, by artificial super intelligence, which will lead to amazing productivity. For our profession, I see only wondrous growth, absolutely phenomenal ability to engage with all these processes. The great thing is that learning now has become more of an unsupervised activity, which can be done because as soon as you learn something, you can reinforce it by trying it and seeing that it creates amazing value. So if we are in the path of learning, if we are in the path of accountability, and we are delivering value, we would have done our profession and our service an amazing good service. And with that elevating message, let me leave you to think about what each one of us can do tomorrow morning as we wake up to get onto this amazing path that the world has opened up for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Shailesh Bhai. It has been really an enthralling, I think, listening time for all of us. Before I could, give a very well-deserved vote of thanks to you, I would just like to, ask one question which has been asked from the audience. So rather, there are two. So we have Mr. Mehta asking that where do you see the practice of IT systems audit, cyber security audits is heading and going forward? What level of growth do you see in this field?
Great question, Mr. Mehta. I think uh, let me give you some numbers because as accountants, we love numbers. The size of the cyber protection market alone is uh, over $3 billion, just cyber protection. If you add to that services, like VFEG and data leak prevention and stuff like that. You add another few billion. But you add to that the big chunk of quantum safe encryption. You might be aware that very recently Sandbox AQ and Accenture came together to actually create the world's first access to quantum safe encryption. What is happening is the bad actors are stealing data now to decrypt later. When quantum computers come into being, as I told you, they're coming in 3 years. So if you have a quantum computer and you can break your RSA encryption, then you're done. All your safety that you feel working with each other on the internet as we are doing today without thinking about it because you think RSA encryption protects us. Tomorrow that protection will go. And so we need to move into that era. So Sandbox AQ, which came out of Google, has invested billions of dollars to make this happen. And some of the things that they're doing and what they've found are incredible. Just give you one instance to tell you what a large market can be addressed. Have you ever wondered how the Arctic birds find their pathway to wherever they have to go every year unfailingly? And they don't miss by even like a few yards where they are supposed to land every year. It happens because they have a quantum sensing device given to them naturally by all the particular possible forms, the extent. And they are able to track along the electromagnetic field of the planet and reach the destination fairly. So what has now become is this definitely important, which can be an override for qualitative but with warzone zones where the Wi-Fi has to be cut up. So you then are navigating based on the electromagnetic field of the planet. And you have a quantum sensor which has already been developed, which will enable you to do this. Now just think about this, that the market for this is so unbelievable. Otherwise, why would Accenture partner and make sure that they create a whole new line of activity? That's just one example. Think about a company called Rubrik. What it does is it guarantees you that if your systems fail because of a cyber attack, then they will put it back in motion with the minimal lag. Whatever is your SLA driven commitment, they will stick to it. And if they miss it, they will put $10 million into your bank account, no questions asked. That's the kind of facility that is being created. Because ultimately, in a digital world of the kind that we describe, it's going to be quantum safe encryption that's going to make us feel secure to actually do this. And also, let me tell you that all our work in auditing will move to cyber based audit because that's where all the value is. That's where all the interactions are going.
Thank you. We have two more questions, which time permitting, will ask. So one is by Mr. Asif Makra, and he asked that in future of our profession is based on AI, then what would be the status of documentation of our work and the authenticity of these documents?
Oh, fantastic. Documentation is going to be embedded in every action. See, you don't need to create new documentation. What I say as my instruction or my prompt is recorded automatically, just as you had to switch on the record button for this seminar. You don't even have to do that. That gets embedded into the whole digital framework. So The task of creating audit documentation and all of that will be automated completely, because the whole way in which you proceed, the entire set of actions that you take will all be embedded in the whole process. And you can bring that out, bring that back as evidence to show uh, in a court of law that you actually proceeded along. And then think about it. When you have a blockchain repository driven framework, then what you're actually doing is just creating that incremental value. And that process, as it happens in the world today, in the case of anti money laundering and financial crime, all of this is getting documented by the FIUs which have cooperated across the world. So that documentation becomes available. It's an amazing new paradigm of the way things will be audited, the way we'll be able to add value. It's so exciting to do this. We just worked with this company out of Singapore, young company, young entrepreneur who has put this together. And it's fascinating to see how dramatic the results are from practicing auditing in this completely new way.
Right. And so we have one more question, which is, I think, applicable to all of us here. That how can chartered accountants contribute to promoting sustainable business practices in the coming decade?
Start with yourself. Commit to one sustainability action and then commit to getting to net zero and find your pathway. And you will see the pathways opening up dramatically for you. Collaboration will open up, great action will open up. I ran a blog run in Mumbai University a few years ago. Young students who were not necessarily Mumbai University students were motivated to rid the entire campus of Mumbai University of all plastic that was thrown around. So every bottle, every plastic waste was picked up and put into the bins by this unpaid volunteer force of youngsters who just wanted to see things get clean. The vice chancellor was completely shocked. We took him around to show him. He said, I've never seen Mumbai University so clean. It was amazing what happened. You can do a lot of this stuff.
Great. And sir, there are two questions which are on macro aspects. I just cover both of them together, and I think they are quite equally interesting to the context of today's topic. Is one that when we are talking about AI, is to start with our education system aligned to take it upon? And second, this another effect of AI is, which I think everyone would somewhere or the other have in their minds, is that what about unemployment? With so much of digitization, there'll be millions of people who may be unemployed.
So let me just give you again a data point. The fastest adoption of any new technology ever in the history of our planet was the adoption of Chat GPT, right? 100 million people got into it in the face. You didn't need education, you didn't need learning. You just needed to have the good sense to download Chat GPT and start experimenting with it, doing whatever. And it guided you and you learned. And just imagine if you spend, I spend, I can tell you that, every day 1 hour catching up on all the new things that are happening in artificial intelligence. It's all there. It's all on the internet. You don't need to struggle. It's not expensive. I pay a subscription of 220 rupees or something every month. And that's it. That gives me access to all the great material in the world. And of course, willing to buy the best literature available on the subject every time it comes out. And that is an investment that you will need to make. That's the way you'll educate yourself on AI and become ready. In terms of unemployment, please don't fear it. Think about what happened when horse carriages were replaced by the car. Okay? All the guys who were driving horses and all the guys who were picking up the manure and putting it into heaps and reprocessing it all felt that the world would come to an end, but it didn't. Everybody became something else, right? And when these massive societal changes occur, what happens is that the old gives way to the new. And throughout my talk, I tried to show you how you can reorient and get into the path of outcome rather than being in the path of a process. We have all our lives become prisoners of process. We now need to become the masters of outcomes. And if you can make that transition, nobody will be unemployed. You'll be the most valuable resource that the world wants. And don't fear, because the surplus that will be generated will be so dramatic that there will be UBI and UBS for everybody. And the inequality equation will be tackled. And that's going to happen because the abundance will be so humongous that there's so much more to go around. And that's my conviction. And that's my prediction and hope. And that's what we are all working towards.